Hi guys, today I'm going to be bringing something a bit different. I'm playing this tournament in this Facebook group that I'm a part of, and I'm using my Tapu Lele Baton Pass team against my opponent's team, which is quite scary, the God Chomp. And I lead off, well, to get right into it, I lead off with Landorus, predicting his Garchomp lead. Doesn't work out for me. He leads off with Metagross. I go hard into Scizor. Yes, he has a... Sorry, I'll be pausing a few times throughout this entire video because I want to walk you guys through my thought process. So, I go into Scizor because there's no reason for him to hard switch into Magnezone turn 1 because he can just get off free damage on something. Ice Punch is his play of choice, which would have been the same play that I would make actually. And then he goes into Garchomp, which is, I think, a better play than Magnezone because then he gets some chip damage off on Scizor and he doesn't really need health on Chomp for any reason. So then I go into Landorus. I should have gone for U-turn over here because it made no sense for him to stay in, but instead I go for HP Ice. That was a bad play. Well, it wasn't a bad play, it was more of a safe play on my part. But I don't lose that much momentum. I go into Decidueye because I take any hit from Feeny. And this might look like a weird play, but you see he goes for Taunt, and my Decidueyes have been taunted countless times. I only have one, but I mean, it's not even real. It's just a simulator. It's all a lie. But it's... yeah, so he taunts my Heatran, and the reason why I go into Heatran over here and I'm Magma Storm is because he doesn't have any other good Magma Storm switch in. Garchomp would take about 30 to 40% with like the after effects of Magma Storm. His only good Magma Storm switch in is Feeny, and I take any one hit from Feeny, even with the crit, unless it's Hydro. I don't know my Hydro calcs. He goes for Whirlpool, he crits, which is fine. It's really interesting to see because normally you'd run Surf or Scald, but I guess Whirlpool works if you're playing against Stall and you want to trap something and pick it off. And the reason why I went into Heatran was mainly to do this, to trap Feeny and Bloom Doom on it. Heatran would have been nice against, say, Magnezone, it'd come in against Muck and all, but Feeny was the main issue. And I get rid of Feeny. I was meant to pause over there, but it just went along with it. Anyways, the reason why I didn't switch out over here is because one, Metagross doesn't carry Earthquake that much, and secondly, he's a bit behind right now, so I predicted him to go into his Magnezone on my switch into Scizor, which is what my Metagross answer is. So I stayed in, and I Earth Power instead of Magma Storm because Magma Storm has a chance to miss, and Earth Power does a decent amount, as you can see. 70% is fine, because now Tapu Lele can pick it off with Shadow Ball, if it comes to that. He Earthquakes, gets rid of my Heatran. I go into Scizor, fire for free U-turn, he goes in Magnezone. Excuse me, does pitiful damage, but at the end of the day, chip damage on Magnezone is chip damage because the more I weaken it for Lele, the better it is. Because now, since Metagross has been severely weakened, Magnezone and Muck are the only two things that are holding Lele back from sweeping. He goes into his Metagross on the Earthquake, which is perfectly fine. He goes on his Buzzwole, which is the other mon that can take Earthquakes from Landorus pretty well. He goes for Sub. I didn't stay in and U-turn or anything fancy because I didn't want him to hit me with an HP Ice, probably kill me. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so I switch into Mantine. Takes nothing, because Mantine's a champ, and it basically walls the entire tier. It doesn't, but let me live my moment. And look at the smile. It's killer. Yeah, you see that? You see that? Yeah, catch that. Yeah, so it's just a bit of 1-2-1-2 with Scald and Substitute. Mantine heals up a nice amount, and he doesn't really have a good Scald switch in because Magnezone, as you can see, takes about 29 to 32% from Scald, which is great because that just adds on to the chip damage that I need for Lele to sweep. And Garchomp and Muck run the chance of getting burnt if it switches in. And the reason why I went into Decidueye over here instead of Landorus is because it was pretty obvious with Thunderbolt. And Landorus is a very aggressive play to make, and it's almost a safe play to make, but in case you went for Flash Cannon, Landorus takes way too much damage, and I don't want that to happen, because I need Lando for Muck and Garchomp. So Decidueye, it might have died to a Flash Cannon, it dies to a Flash Cannon, okay, I'm not even going to try and boast Decidueye's bulk this time around. But if he goes for Flash Cannon, that just gives me a free Mantine, and I can fire off another Scald. Whereas, right now, instead, since he went for Thunderbolt, it just gives me free Roost. That means Decidueye can switch into Magnezone many more times. So, he goes into Muck, which is the best play he could have made at that point. And Muck, the best thing that it does is Pursuit Trap. It comes in on Lele, Pursuit Traps it and poisons everything. That's basically what it does. And I go for Baton Pass because that avoids the Pursuit Trap. I go into Scizor. and I get hit by Pursuit. That's a crit, but the crit really doesn't matter. U-turn does a nice 36%, sorry. And if you remember, or if you've seen one of our previous lives, I do mention Muck sometimes carries a fire move. There we have it, the Fire Blast. Luckily, it doesn't burn. Landorus takes it really well. It takes like 17.5. I should have U-turned over here to keep the momentum, but I go for Earthquake and then I U-turn and it works out. The reason I didn't hard switch into Mantine was because if he had Ice Punch, he would have gone for Ice Punch that time. One. Two, you generally don't run Focus Punch with Ice Punch. It's a completely viable set. It's just that I haven't seen it that much. I guess it was a bit of a risky play, but it works out fine because I break his focus. And Mantine takes no damage. Instead, it takes 6% recovery. Happy face. Yeah, let's go. Sorry about that. He goes in Muck. I get off 10%, which is nice. Like I said, chip damage on Muck and Magnezone is chip damage on Muck and Magnezone. I don't get a burn, which is whatever. The reason why I don't stay in with Mantine is because, as you can see, Lando gets poisoned. Yeah, that's the main reason, because Mantine could have gotten poisoned, and I don't want my lefties knocked off. Whereas Landorus gets more Rocky Helmet damage on this, gets an Intimidate, which doesn't really matter that much. I should have U-turned again. Instead I Earthquake, because U-turn would have done fine, like a decent amount of damage to Muck anyways. Yeah, I guess that was a bit of a misplay. Doesn't really cost me that much because Mantine can always switch into Buzzwole. It switches in for days. Look at that. Look at this guy flapping its wings. Mantine, you're mine. I should stop. So I get off another Scald in Magnezone. It doesn't burn, but that's fine because now Magnezone is severely weakened. I go into Decidueye to take the Volt Switch. He goes in his Garchomp. I stay in with Decidueye. The reason why I stay, and he gets a crit, which is sort of unfortunate because I end up taking a bit more damage than I should have, but that's completely fine because he doesn't go for a ground type move. He doesn't go for... If he had a fire type move, he might have gone for a fire type move, but he doesn't go for a ground type move. He might have gone for a dragon type move, but that's completely fine because if I lose Decidueye and he's locked into Outrage, which is what you run on Scarf Chomp, I can go into Lille and pick off Scarf Chomp. That's why I stay in and I just Baton Pass into Landorus because he goes for the Poison Jab. And over here again, actually no, I did go for HP Ice and that was the play. Like, this wasn't even a misplay. Well, it's not really a misplay, it's not the optimal play. I honestly thought HP Ice would do a bit more because Buzzwole doesn't have really high special defense or even decent special defense, but that's about 19.5, which doesn't even break the sub. So I go into Mantine, take a Leech Life. Yeah, take it. Yeah, that's right. He goes on Garchomp and I just fire off his Scald. And Mantine, like, he seems to have a really difficult time right now against Mantine. I stay in because I can take any one hit and I can roost off the damage. I basically lose just 1% health over there. I go into Landorus to sack it. Doesn't even die. The poison kills it off. I get Intimidate off on Garchomp. Now Tapu Lele basically gets a kill over here. Intimidate helps against taking the Stone Edge from Garchomp, and Muck comes in. The reason why I Moonblast over here, and of course I feared the Poison Jab, but I didn't really have another switch in. Like, fine, Scizor switches in, but then, like, it just ends up becoming a lot of mind games at that point. Whereas over here, I get off guaranteed Moonblast damage on Muck, which is perfect. Decidueye beats Magnezone 1v1 at the range it's at. Mantine completely walls Buzzwole, as you've seen. So Moonblast was my play of choice, and it works out because he goes for the Pursuit, which would have done more damage, potentially poison me. Luckily he doesn't. I pick off Muck. I should have calced it, but I was just too lazy. I didn't want to. I just didn't bother calculating how much Moonblast would do on Magnezone. So I go into Decidueye. He goes for a Volt Switch. He goes into Buzzwole, obviously, because he has nothing else. I roost up because just in case I need Decidueye to switch into Magnezone a few more times. Yeah. And then I go into Mantine, and he bulks up, which is kind of scary because bulk up Focus Punch does do a lot, but hey, it's Mantine. 3, 2, 1. That's right. I'm still waiting. Let's go. Let's go, Showdown. That does nothing. You see that? You see that face? That's right. So he keeps on... Oh wait, did I just repeat the turn? I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, so I can basically take any of these Leech Lives and Focus Punches, and I wanted Mantine to die. I get the burn, which pretty much seals up the game. if Mantine died, I basically bring in Tapu Lele and I click Psychic twice and I win. Unless he somehow managed to keep a sub while killing my Mantine, which seemed very unlikely. So he forfeits over there. It was a good game overall. It was a very solid team on his end. And yeah, if you've enjoyed, hopefully, yeah, I'll definitely bring you guys the next round. And if I win that, so on. See you guys next time.